Hey guys, Black Bolt here. Hope you are doing well and staying safe and healthy. The topic of today's video is, should you buy a used Chevy Bolt EV in 2020? The answer to that question is unequivocally yes. My wife and I own a 2017 Chevy Bolt EV Premier with over 100,000 miles now that we bought on July 31st of 2019, and it is my favorite car of all the cars that I've owned. We have owned a couple of rear-wheel drive BMWs, a 2003 and a 2008 way back in the day. We've owned a Ford Edge. We've owned a Hyundai Santa Fe Sport 2013, which was a similar vehicle to this one. It's the car that we owned prior to this one, and it was a fantastic car in its own right, but the Chevy Bolt EV is an amazing value, and you should get one if you can. So one of the reasons the Chevy Bolt EV Premier is a good value is because of the fun factor. Like I said, I owned a 2003 BMW 325 Ci Coupe, and then I also owned a 2008 BMW 325i. Both of those were rear-wheel drives. The 2008 with a stick-shift transmission, which was a lot of fun to drive. Good acceleration, good maneuvering, being able to get around corners. The Chevy Bolt, although it's a front-wheel drive vehicle, it's similar in the fun factor. These cars are zippy, they're easy to maneuver, and you'll never get bored of the acceleration and the torque that you feel when you drive these cars, especially in the 30 to 60 mile per hour range, which is a lot of fun. I'm doing 30 miles an hour right now. I'm doing 60 miles an hour. Just like that. Another reason that you should strongly consider getting a 2017 or 2018 Chevy Bolt EV Premier or another electric car in 2020 is the price. Guys, take a look in the upper right hand corner for the incredible values that you can get Bolts for. Easily in the $15,000 range with under 50,000 miles. When we bought our Premier last year, it had 49,010 miles, and we paid $20,200 for it before taxes. And as you can see, there are cars selling for $15,000, $16,000, $17,000 for Bolt EV Premiers with well under 50,000 miles. Most of the ones that I see there listed on cars.com have mileage in the 30s and 40s, which is just incredible. I highly recommend that. If you can pull that, it's a much better value than something else that you would get that's very similar. And to that end, an argument that I often hear is that electric cars are significantly more expensive than their internal combustion counterparts. And that may be true for new cars, but even then I'm a little bit skeptical because, and you can look this up on your own time, but there are videos on YouTube that do cost analyses and cost of ownership comparing the Tesla Model 3 to other vehicles like BMW 3 Series and Honda Accord, and the Tesla Model 3 actually is very competitive. But we're going to use a more direct comparison here when we talk about the Bolt, because Chevrolet actually makes something called a Chevy Trax, which is very similar in dimensions to the Chevy Bolt EV. And from what I can see on cars.com, a Chevy Trax will go for $13,000 to $15,000 if you are looking for a 2017 or 2018 Chevy Trax Premier. So you are not saving very much money up front if you choose to go with something like a Chevy Trax instead of a Chevy Bolt EV Premier. And another thing just to touch on is I always buy my cars used. I don't believe that people who aren't millionaires should be spending significant amounts of money buying brand new vehicles that are going to depreciate very quickly in their first few years of ownership. So there you go. Another reason you should strongly consider getting a 2017 or 2018 Chevy Bolt EV or another used electric car in 2020 is efficiency. Electric motors are simply more efficient than internal combustion engines. Whether you care about the environment or not, electric motors use less energy to propel themselves than internal combustion engines do, and that means cheaper cost for you and less damage to the environment. I've seen that electric motors can be 80% and above efficient, whereas traditional engines are in the 20% range. That means that the same amount of energy that goes into an electric motor will take it 4 times farther than the same amount of energy going into an internal combustion engine. And if you want details on that, there are smarter guys and gals than me on YouTube who do the detailed analysis of those. People I can think of like Ben Sullins or Transport Evolved are really good at that kind of thing. I'm just a regular dude who drives a Chevy Bolt EV, and I previously had a Hyundai Santa Fe Sport, which was a very similar vehicle, and I can assure you that the Chevy Bolt EV is far more efficient and far more fun to drive than that vehicle was. The energy efficiency overlay in the upper right hand corner is my actual data from September 2020. As you can see, I drove 2,428 miles at 132 mpge. The 2017-2018 Chevy Trax, which is a very similar car to the Bolt, gets 28 miles per gallon combined. And in order for it to drive 2,428 miles, it would use 86.7 gallons. And at $2 per gallon, that would end up costing you $173.40. 132 mpge would use the equivalent of 18 gallons of fuel or 607 kilowatt hours of electricity. So I get charged 4.5 cents per kilowatt hour of electricity, so that costs me just $27.32 to drive my Chevy Bolt the same distance that it would cost me to drive a similarly equipped Chevy Trax Premier. And finally, I have left the big boogeyman for last. Should you buy a used 2017 or 2018 Chevy Bolt EV in 2020? The most common question that I get asked is about charging infrastructure. But what happens if you run out of electricity? And my response is, I don't run out of electricity. And in my head, I continue because there is electricity everywhere in the United States of America and probably where you live too. Everywhere you go, there is charging infrastructure if there are power outlets available. Now, I don't recommend charging your car with 120 volt regularly, but those are available everywhere. And as you can see in the overlay, there are level 2 chargers available, especially where I live in the Twin Cities. Pretty much anywhere that you go, you're going to be within a few minutes of one. I live in a semi-rural area, and we have level 2 and level 3 chargers. There are 2 fast chargers within 15 minutes of my house. There's a third one that I know of that I've never been to. That's probably also within 15 minutes of my house, but it's just out of the way, so I never go there. But I live in a conservative area of the country that has brought us luminaries such as Michelle Bachmann, and even out here, you can get fast charging. Isn't that incredible? But most importantly, you can get level 2 charging directly installed at your house, which is what I do, so I never have to use charging infrastructure outside of home. I simply plug in my car when I get home in the evening, and when I wake up, it is either fully charged, or if I use Hilltop Reserve, then it is charged at somewhere in the 80 to 90% range, and I don't run out of electricity because I plan my days, I plan my routes, I know approximately how many miles I'm going to run, and so when I get home, the car still has juice left in it, but if for some reason I plan poorly, random stuff happens, there are fast chargers everywhere, and in a worst case scenario, there are level 2 chargers within minutes of wherever I happen to be. So I just plug in and read a book for an hour, and I get home, and then I plug in, and the car is full again in the morning. So there you go. Should you buy a 2017 or 2018 Chevy Bolt EV or another used electric car in 2020? The answer is yes. comment, subscribe, and let me know if you have any feedback and any questions that you may have for me, and we'll see you in the next video. Have a great week.